"Excuse me. I think this belongs to someone who loves you very much." Lena Voss held out her palm. Resting in the center of it, catching the thin morning light that fell through the laundromat's side window, was a gold wedding band. Small, worn smooth at the edges, with a faint inscription on the inside that she hadn't read, because some things aren't yours to read. The man on the other side of the counter went completely still. He was tall, unshaven, wearing a flannel shirt that had been slept in. His eyes, the kind of dark brown that holds exhaustion and something older beneath it, dropped to her palm, and for a moment, he didn't move at all. Then his hand came up slowly and closed around the ring, and he pressed his fist against his chest, like he was holding something back that had been trying to get out for a while. "Where did you find it?" His voice came out rough. "Pocket of your jacket, the gray one. We always check before washing." She paused. "I almost missed it. It had slipped into the lining. There was a small tear." He looked at her then. Really looked. "Thank you," he said, and the way he said it, quiet, fractured, like the words cost him something, told her that this was not simply about a piece of jewelry. Lena Calloway had worked at Sunrise Fresh Laundry on Clement Street in Nashville for 3 years, since she was 22. The year she decided that a steady paycheck and a quiet life were more honest than the art degree she'd deferred, and probably wouldn't go back for. The laundromat was owned by a woman named Patrice, who was 61, and moved slowly, and always had a butterscotch candy in her apron pocket, and called everyone baby, without it ever sounding condescending. Lena liked the work. She liked the rhythm of it, the warm machinery, the folded stacks, the clean smell of detergent, the way people dropped their lives off at the counter, and trusted her to handle them with care. She was precise and quiet and honest. And she had the kind of face that made people feel safe leaving things with her. She was 25 now. She lived in a one-bedroom apartment 12 minutes away, kept a small herb garden on her windowsill, and called her father in Knoxville every Sunday. She was not unhappy. She was also not quite finished becoming who she was going to be. She knew that, even if she couldn't have explained it. The man with the ring came back the next day to pick up the rest of his laundry. His name was Stellan Rowe. She didn't know that yet. He was quieter this time, less raw. He paid, thanked Patrice at the register, and then paused at the door and looked back at Lena, who was sorting behind the counter. "The ring," he said. "It was my mother's." Lena looked up. "She passed 8 months ago. I've been carrying it in that jacket pocket since the funeral. I don't know why I didn't put it somewhere safer." He stopped. "I've been a little, not all the way here lately." "I'm sorry about your mother," Lena said. He nodded. She would have liked knowing someone found it and gave it back without a second thought. "It wasn't my ring to keep." He looked at her for a moment. Steady, serious. "Some people wouldn't see it that way." "Some people," she said simply, "aren't looking hard enough." He left. She went back to sorting. Patrice appeared from the back room, unwrapping a butterscotch, and said nothing. But she was smiling in the way she had when she noticed things she approved of. 6 weeks passed. One morning, Patrice called Lena to the front with an odd expression, not worried exactly, but curious in a way that didn't quite fit her usual calm. She handed Lena a folded piece of paper. On the outside it said, "For the woman at the counter, the honest one." Inside was a note, handwritten. "My name is Stellan Rowe. I'm a musician, or I was, before this year swallowed me. I wrote something. I didn't mean for it to be about anyone specific, but it turned out to be about you. I thought you should know before it came out. S.R." Below that, a phone number. Lena stood there for a long time. Then she looked up at Patrice. "Do you know who Stellan Rowe is?" Patrice unwrapped another butterscotch. "Baby, everyone knows who Stellan Rowe is." Lena had not known. She'd heard the name, somewhere, vaguely, but she didn't follow music closely, didn't own a record player, didn't know that Stellan Rowe had sold out the Ryman 2 years in a row before grief had gone quiet in him and taken his music with it. She didn't know that Nashville had been holding its breath, waiting for him to find his way back. She found out all of this later. What she did first was fold the note, put it in her apron pocket, and go back to work. Some things need to settle before you know what to do with them. She called the number that evening, standing at her kitchen window with the herb garden in front of her and the Knoxville call already done for the week. He answered on the second ring. "I read your note," she said. "I wasn't sure you would call." "I wasn't sure either." A pause. "What's the song about?" A long silence. "It's about the moment when someone does something completely ordinary and it breaks something open in you that you didn't know was closed." His voice was steady but careful, the way a person speaks around something tender. "I walked in that morning ready to fall apart completely, and you just held out your hand, like it was the most natural thing." Lena looked at the small rosemary plant on her sill. "It was the most natural thing." "I know," he said. "That's what the song is about." The song released on a Tuesday in March. It was called Pocket Number 7, the number of the laundry bin where Lena had found the ring. It began with finger-picked guitar, low and slow, and Stellan's voice above it, unhurried and unguarded, in a way his earlier records hadn't been. Within 4 days, it had been heard 11 million times. Within a week, every music journalist in Nashville was writing about the return of Stellan Rowe, about grief, about silence, about what it takes to find your way back to something true. They wrote about the unnamed woman, the honest hands, the ring and the torn lining. Lena heard it for the first time on a Thursday, alone in the laundromat after closing, the machine still, and the streetlight coming through the glass. She sat on the bench by the window and listened all the way through without moving. When it ended, she sat in the quiet for a long time. Patrice had left a butterscotch on the counter for her, as if she'd known. What no one who wrote about the song knew, what Lena only learned much later, in pieces, was that Stellan had not intended to release anything that year. He had told his label, his manager, his oldest friend, that he was done, that the music had left with his mother, and he didn't know how to call it back. He had been, by his own quiet admission, more lost than he'd let anyone see. The morning he walked into Sunrise fresh, with his gray jacket, and his mother's ring tucked in its torn lining, he had not been planning to continue. Then a 25-year-old woman with careful hands held out her palm and said, "I think this belongs to someone who loves you very much." And something in him, small, persistent, stubborn as a pilot light, had refused to go out. He came back to the laundromat one more time. A Saturday morning in April, just before he left for a tour that would take him through 12 cities. He brought coffee, 2 cups, no ceremony, and sat across from her at the small table by the window, where customers sometimes waited. They talked for an hour. About his mother, about her father in Knoxville, about the herb garden and the art degree, and the way a person becomes who they are, through the small decisions they make when no one is watching. Before he left, he set something on the table between them. It was a copy of the song, printed on paper, handwritten in his actual handwriting, the lyrics down one side and the chord notations down the other. "So you have the original," he said. She looked at it. "You're going to make me cry in my own workplace." "You held out your hand," he said simply. "The least I can do is give you something to hold on to." She picked up the paper carefully, the way she handled everything entrusted to her. "Take care of yourself out there," she said. "I will." He stood, paused at the door, the same morning light. "Thank you, Lena, for the ring, for all the rest of it." She nodded once. "It was never hard," she said. "It was just the right thing." He smiled, full and real, the kind that reaches the eyes, and walked out into the Nashville morning. Kindness doesn't always know it's being kind. Lena didn't hold out her hand to save anyone. She held it out because the ring wasn't hers, and returning things that belong to others is simply what you do. She didn't know that a man on the other side of the counter was quietly dissolving. She didn't know that one small, honest gesture would find its way into a song that millions of people would cry to in their cars. She just checked the pockets, like she always did. It has always been enough. If this story touched your heart, please like, share, subscribe, and comment. Let's spread more stories of kindness and hope together.